following video is not made for kids. Viewer discretion is advised. Hello to my subscribers, this is the TFangy coming to you with what will hopefully be a quick and successful review. And today we're going to be taking a look at a Transformers action figure whose review is long overdue, and it is Transformers Legacy Evolution Leader Class Armada Megatron. Now, not counting the exclusives, there were a total of 3 Leader Class figures that were released in the Legacy Evolution line last year in 2023, and I haven't reviewed any of them until now, so I apologize for that. So it's been a while since I've reviewed a leader class figure, and of the 4 size classes that are sold at that are more commonly found at mass retail, which are leader, Voyager, deluxe, and core class size. Leader class is the size class of figures that I'm really far behind in reviewing, but here is the Armada version of Megatron. This was a really nice release for Transformers Armada fans last year. But that said, Armada Megatron is still shelf warming at some stores in the U.S., even though he was released almost a year ago. So, I guess from the reviews I've seen, there isn't much middle ground. Transformers fans and collectors either absolutely love or absolutely don't love this Transformers figure. But I I'm I'm biased in that I enjoy Armada Megatron because Transformers Armada was the first ever Transformers series I watched, and I missed out on the original Armada Megatron figure when it was released back in 2002, since I didn't get into the Transformers franchise until 2003, and by then the original Armada Megatron figure was gone from store shelves. I do have the original Armada Galvatron figure, but I apologize for not bringing that out for a size comparison, but I will do that. Bring out that figure if I can get a hold of the upcoming Legacy United Leader Class Armada Galvatron figure that's been teased on the back of the upcoming Titan Class Armada Tidal Waves box, showing him combined with Armada Galvatron, which, like the original figure, will be a repaint of Armada Megatron here. So here's Armada Megatron in his box. You've got some artwork of him in his robot mode and in his alt mode. Here on this side of the box, you got a close-up of his face. Ace, and like I said, Transformers Armada was the first ever Transformers series I ever watched, so the idea of Megatron having a battle tank for his vehicle mode, that's something I've always enjoyed. Seeing on this side of the box, you got the poster image from the Legacy Evolution line last year, and then around here at the back of the box, you got your product photos, and Megatron transforms back and forth from robot mode to tank mode in just 23 steps. He does have the same gimmick as the original figure, where you can rotate his tank turret around from his back and put it on his chest and give him a chest cannon. The thing with the Armada version of Megatron is, because of the gimmicks with the mini-cons, rather than his fusion cannon being attached to his arm, which is where it was on Generation 1 Megatron, Armada Megatron's fusion cannon was just the tank turret, and it wrapped around his waist and hung off underneath his right side arm, making it look like it was coming out of the side of his torso, instead of being attached to the arm. There's a new gimmick here where you can detach the front of the barrel of the tank turret and attach it to one of Armada Megatron's arms, which is something the original figure did not do. So that's one of the things that a lot of Transformers fans and collectors have been divided over with the new legacy versions of the Armada characters. Is that so far the only mini-cons we've gotten have both been released as Hasbro Pulse exclusives. There was Jolt, who was released with the Powerlinks version of Hot Shot, and then there was Whisper, who was released with Shatterglass Sideswipe. It's been confirmed that Shatterglass Sideswipe will be repainted into the Armada version of Wheeljack, but whether or not Whisper will be repainted into Armada Wheeljack's mini-con partner Windshear is uncertain. So the designers at Hasbro and Takara are capable of designing modern-day figures of the mini-cons, but with the only 2 released so far being Hasbro Pulse exclusives, the chances of Armada Megatron being united with his mini-con partner, which is named Leader 1, and it's uncertain. It's most likely not going to happen at this point due to Hasbro and Takara realizing that most of the fans aren't really into tiny size Transformers figures right now, and evidence of that can be backed up by the fact that the last tiny size Transformers we got were the Micromasters released in the Siege and Earthrise lines back in 2019 and 2020, and apparently most Transformers fan collectors were disappointed with the Micromasters, so Hasbro and Takara decided for the minicons, we'll just release Jolt and Whisper Whisper as exclusives, see if Transformers fans like them. So far it's been kind of mixed feedback, mediocre feedback on them. So more minicons getting released is probably not going to happen at this point. But Hasbro and Takara could prove me wrong and announce that they are releasing minicons next year in 2025. Who knows? But for now, let's bring focus back here to Armada Megatron. The Evo Fusion gimmick is just us the us the So a lot of Transformers fan collectors have said that the Evo Fusion gimmick for the Legacy Evolution line was the worst gimmick to ever come out. I personally agree. But basically, the new figure here of Armada Megatron, it can do a lot of things the old figure did. It's just instead of having a minicon activate all of the features just do them on your own. And with the minicon gimmicks removed from him, and the new Legacy Evolution version of Armada Megatron has a lot more points of articulation. One thing, unfortunately, it doesn't have is shoulder rotations. The upper shoulder towers are permanently stationed, which was, I think it was something that the original figure also was lacking, was an ability to rotate the entire arm at the shoulder backwards. There's a couple of upgrade kits that have come out where you can switch out the official joints that Hasbro and Takara made with one that can allow the arm to swivel. But regardless, I'm getting ahead of myself. He's still inside the box, so let's get Armada Megatron open to take a close look at him in the mode that he's packaged in, which from photos I've seen, I believe he's packaged in tank mode, so we will start from there. Alright, and so here is Legacy Evolution Armada Megatron out of his box. He comes packaged in tank mode, so we'll start the review off looking at him in alt mode. And it's a really impressive tank. I've been waiting since 2003 to have a Armada Megatron figure that looked a lot like the original Armada Megatron figure, and not one that was just a G1 version of Megatron done up in green. This technically is the second version of Armada Megatron that we got in the overall Generations line. The first version was the Combiner Wars Armada Megatron figure, but that figure was just a repaint of the Combiner Wars G1/IDW Megatron, and done in our Armada Megatron's paint job and the head sculpt. But this is a true modern day version of the original Armada Megatron figure. It does roll pretty well on my wooden table. It's on 4 plastic wheels, similar to the original Armada Megatron figure, running on 4 tiny wheels and non-working treads. But non-working treads is a universal given with most Transformers action figures that have a battle tank for an alt mode. But a lot of the sculpted detailing that the original figure had is still here on the new figure. For those of you wondering what this weird L-shaped pattern here is, on the original Armada Megatron figure, this is a push and shove of track where you would insert Megatron's minicon partner, and then the Decepticon symbol here on the tank turret would light up, and then this part right here was a little speaker, and that was how the original lights and sounds were activated on the original Armada Megatron figures. So all of the on the what were originally minicon ports on the original Armada Megatron figure, they're all 5mm ports here on the new figure, such as the port here on the tank turret, that one right there. On the original figure here, this would when you inserted a minicon, this orange part here, which was actually orange on both sides, lines here on the original figure, this 8-shaped piece would flip out, and there'd be 2 pegs that would allow you to attach 2 more minicons here, and then you insert a minicon here, and then these 3 triangle or trapezoid-shaped armor plates on this tank tread, they'd flip up and it would reveal even more minicon ports. And on one side of the tank treads, you'd have an additional port for a minicon where you could store one inside, and it would be like a jail cell where Megatron had captured another minicon. And then on this side, this would pop out and would be a claw. So Megatron would be halfway through capturing another minicon. And so yeah, overall, I do enjoy that all the sculpted detailing is there. One thing that I do find disappointing is that even though we aren't into robot mode yet, Megatron's feet are totally hollowed out. On the original figure, the feet were solid, and that's because to get Megatron transformed, the feet would actually rotate 180 degrees. So this was actually on the original Armada Megatron figure. This was the bottom of the feet, and it would rotate 180 degrees when you would transform him from tank mode to robot mode. The heel spurs hanging off the back are something that the original figure had, but the heel spurs would flip up and hide more securely in the back of the tank mode. But overall, I can't complain too much about this new figure because Hasbro and Cartomi, in my opinion, did a very good job updating this figure. Unfortunately, one thing I wish they would have done, since the minicon ports are removed, was on the original Armada Megatron figure, and the same was true with the Galvatron repaint, the tank turret couldn't rotate a full 360 degrees, and that was because of the minicon gimmick. Because, again, this L-shaped track right here, in addition to activating the lights and sounds, it would actually allow Megatron's tank turret to not necessarily pop up like this, but it would allow it to extend out, and that was done for the Megatron's battle mode when the tank turret would sit on his chest, which you also had to do to combine him with Tidal Wave. And I honestly wish Hasbro and Cartoon would not have replicated that inability of the turret being able to spin 360 degrees clockwise and counterclockwise, because with the minicon gimmick removed, having that feature or not having that feature lacking in full rotation, I just think that kind of hurts the figure. One nice thing is that on the original, I just popped it off, but on the original Armada Megatron figure, this double barrel cannon would rotate out, and these turrets here were actually missiles that you would push a button here, and they've kind of replicated that button with that gray rocket that's sculpted on there. Here, but you would shoot that out, and then these missiles would spring out. Same thing with the main tank turret. When you attached a minicon to the tank hatch up here, it allowed you to fire a missile that would stick out of the barrel of the main tank cannon. So that's another nice feature that they replicated with the sculpted detailing, at least. But I kind of wish they would have done it a different way. My main gripe with this figure, and I remember seeing other people say it on their reviews when Armada Megatron was released last year, is that the removable tank turret barrel and also Megatron's horns are made out of rubbery plastic, and as you can see out of the box, one of the horns on my copy of Megatron is warped and bent out of shape. So that's really discouraging to see that. I found Megatron at a Target store last year when he came out for the first time. It was the last copy I got right when he first came out. He was a hard to find figure, but it's almost a year later, and now Megatron is one of the leader class figures that that's shelf warming at Target stores. So it's kind of amazing that there was so much hype and nostalgia for him, and now he's shelf warming. He's actually he's actually pretty easy to come across Armada Megatron right now, but who knows in the coming months if he'll finally disappear from shelves, and then everyone will be saying, "Oh, I missed out on getting Armada Megatron." So, just a friendly word of advice. Even if you hear other Transformers fans and collectors say, "Oh, I hate this figure. It's not Igor. Don't buy it. You should avoid this thing entirely." If you yourself like the figure, follow your gut instinct and add it to your Transformers collection. Because even if everyone else says that a figure is bad, you might surprisingly find that you like enjoy the figure yourself. So I always say that about Transformers action figures that shelf warm. They're here today, but they're gone tomorrow, which is an all true reality check with when it comes to the availability of Transformers action figures. So, nostalgia aside, if you don't know the history of Transformers Armada like I do, and you're looking at this thing purely as a new leader class Megatron figure, it's a pretty nice looking version of Megatron that has a green battle tank for an alt mode. It's not even though in the Armada cartoon the vehicle modes that the Transformers Armada characters took on were supposed to be Earthen style vehicle modes. What Hasbro and Takara Tomy did is to incorporate the minicon gimmick. They had the alt modes of the Transformers Armada characters have weapons built into them, and so the best way I could describe the vehicle modes of the Transformers Armada characters is that they were basically clean cut, freshly painted vehicles that you would see from the Mad Max franchise, where they're vehicles that look like they're from the apocalypse, decked out in weapons that humans just added onto the vehicles in what's way. The only difference is that, unlike in the Mad Max video games, the vehicles have brand new paint and they look like they're fresh from a factory instead of being haphazardly hashed together other weapons just built to survive. But yeah, overall, Armada Megatron's a pretty impressive looking figure. And as far as the 5mm ports that have replaced the minicon pegs, he still does have quite a lot of them. He has two hanging here on the back of the tank mode, which the original figure was lacking. And there's, of course, one on the top of the turret, and then you've got two here on the front treads, which become the back of the shoulders, and you've got four on the sides as well. So in tank mode, I believe Armada Megatron has a let's see here, 3, 7, 8, 9, at least 10 5mm ports that I can see, the 10th one being the edge of the tank turret. I apologize for moving my mouth away from my microphone. But yeah, if you don't have any nostalgia for the Transformers Armada series, then what this Megatron figure has going for it is that it's a version of Megatron that transforms into a green science fictional looking battle tank. And just for a special size comparison with another Megatron figure that turns into a green battle tank, here is Legacy Evolution Leader Class Armada Megatron with Transformers Generation Selects / Earthrise Generation 2 Megatron. And for the longest time, the Transformers Armada version of Megatron challenged the original Generation 2 Megatron figure for the title of being the physically largest Transformers action figure that turned into a battle tank. I believe the title for largest Transformers action figure with a battle tank alt mode is now tied between the original Generation 2 Megatron figure still and also the 2007 Movie 1 Leader Class Brawl action figure that was released in the first live action movie line. The Armada Megatron on tank is just ever so slightly smaller. And I believe the fourth largest battle tank transformer is the Combiner Wars Megatron figure that I mentioned a moment ago. Oh, so here's a leader class figure from the Legacy line next to a Voyager class figure from the Earthrise / Generation Selects line. And even though the barrel of the tank on the Earthrise figure is longer, Armada Megatron is a longer tank. He's slightly wider, and in terms of sheer overall size, as far as weight to them, this figure does weigh a few ounces more than this figure does. So even though this figure does come pretty close, this one is a slightly larger figure. But on that note, it is kind of disappointing to see that these days Voyager and Leader class Transformers are almost the same in size. There isn't much of a significant size difference between Voyager and Leader class Transformers figures. So on that note, let's get Legacy Evolution Armada Megatron transformed into his robot mode. I mean to say, we will wrap up the review. Alright, so here is Armada Megatron transformed into his robot mode, and again, I can see why everyone last year was complaining about the horns. The fact that they're made out of rubbery plastic is not good. It's not enjoyable. But yeah, the overall, again, it's a pretty nice action figure. I really enjoy how faithful it is to the original Armada Megatron figure. Again, the biggest gripe to be had with the articulation robot mode is that the way the arms transform from the front of the tanks, there's no joint in the shoulder to allow the arm to rotate forward and backwards. backwards. The original figure couldn't do that either, but Megatron was shown moving his entire shoulder with the shoulder tower forward and backwards in the Armada show on multiple times, and even some of the promotional artwork for the Armada series showed him in some pretty decent action poses. There were some where he would charge into battle against Optimus Prime to try and steal the minicons first. But yeah, that's pretty much what this new modern figure has going for, is more articulated joints. The arms can, at the shoulder, the arm can go down that far, even though it's not supposed to. That's another gripe people have had with this figure, is that there's no locking mechanism for the shoulders, so there is a fear that over time the shoulders will eventually sag downward and Megatron will end up looking like this. So that's pretty discouraging. Rotate ball joint at the head so it can go up and down ever so slightly and can spin 360 degrees left and right. There is a bicep swivel, but it's very stiff out of the box. Hinge jointed elbows, swivel joints in the wrists, and for those of you who with a keen eye will have noticed that Armada Megatron, this hand is a closed 5mm fist, while this one is opened out, and that's because the original Armada Megatron figure had this gimmick where a dagger would flip out of the center of his hand, and he actually used it to almost stab Optimus Prime in their final battle at the end of the Transformers Armada series. Spoiler alert for no one who's ever seen that in the Armada cartoon before. But yeah, overall, a pretty incredible looking Transformers action figure. You got this elevated joint that you can make Megatron even taller if you want, and that's where the swivel joint for the waist is located at. Ratchet jointed, universal jointed hip joints, so the legs can go forward and backward and out to the side pretty far. Swivel joint at the top of the thigh, and then ratchet joints in the knees. And while I have Megatron extended like this, what you do after you extend him out like this, rotate the upper arm out of the way, and then you rotate the tank turret around all the way. What you're supposed to do is, I believe I'm doing it wrong. Let me see here. How do you rotate that? Well, anyways, what you're supposed to do is, with Megatron here, is this extension joint right here is where, on the original figure, this is where tidal wave would clip on, and then the front of the tank would, you rotate it around to get him into power-up mode, which is also how you combine him with tidal wave. Give me one moment, please. Sorry about that. So, fresh out of the box, that swivel joint on the waist was really tight, so unfortunately, Armada Megatron, just like the original figure, the Legacy Evolution figure, it depends on this cylinder-shaped spinal cord to have Megatron transform properly into his different modes. Normally, you would leave Megatron elevated up like this with his spinal cord exposed out, and that's how you combine Tidal Wave with him. Tidal Wave, his three vehicles, one arm would attach here, one would attach to this arm on Megatron, and Megatron would have two arm cans, and the third one was a C-joint clip that would clip onto Megatron's spine, and then Megatron would also have a jetpack, which would allow him to fly. Alright, so lowering it down, here is Megatron in his powered up battle mode, where the tank turret sits in front of him. And just like the original Armada Megatron figure, you can rotate it slightly, but again, just like the original figure, it fails to actually rotate 360 degrees clockwise and counterclockwise, and that's because of how, on the original figure, the minicon gimmick, because of the electronic wiring leading into the lights and sounds in the front of the turret, that's the reason why it wouldn't rotate that way, so you wouldn't snap the electric wires off. But with the lights and sounds removed and the minicon gimmick also removed, it makes no sense why they didn't do the give the tank the ability to rotate 360 degrees clockwise and counterclockwise, and clockwise. And the reason why the original figure did it was so the wires wouldn't snap off, and so there was a locking point. But I'm repeating myself at this point. It's late at night, and it's actually just after midnight where I live, so I should technically be in bed right now, but I wanted to get this review out. But the point I'm trying to make is I wish that that one feature of the turret not being able to rotate, I wish they would not have done that for the sake of nostalgia, to make everyone look, oh, this was a feature lacking on the original figure. So for those who don't have the original figure and you want to know what it looked like to actually transform the figure, almost the same way we're gonna incorporate the locking mechanism for the turret again, even though there's no electronic wires in there that would snap off if you rotated it 360 degrees. So yeah, that gets a rare thumbs down from me for that feature being lacking on this figure from Hasbro and Takara Tomy. But for a quick size comparison, once again, here is Legacy Evolution Leader Class Armada Megatron with Generation Selects Generation 2 Megatron. So here are the two most well-known versions of Megatron that have green battle tanks for a vehicle mode. I have an upgrade kit where there's a little additional piece that allows the fusion cannon on G2 Megatron to attach to the top of his shoulder. So this is actually what he looked like here. So yeah, here's the two green tank Megatron. On's ready to duke it out and fight each other. And yeah, that's pretty fun seeing them stand opposite each other. Like this. Yes, but overall, as far as the main question of do I recommend getting the Legacy Evolution Armada Megatron figure and adding it to your Transformers collection? Absolutely, I do. It's a badass version of Megatron. It's imposing, it's intimidating, and I don't care what people say. The Transformers Armada version of Megatron is one of the best versions of Megatron that exists out there. It rivals the version of Megatron for Transformers Cybertron, and being the best version of Megatron from the Unicron trilogy. And even though on the original figures the sizes were reversed than what they are here on the new versions, I think the Armada Megatron figure is a far superior figure than the Generation 2 Megatron figure. I love that this is more of an army green on Armada Megatron versus the bright neon green used here on Generation 2 Megatron. And so overall, I really enjoy how this figure came out, and I enjoy having it in my Transformers collection. So thank you guys all so much for watching. This has been the TFang. Again, this has been my review of the Transformers Legacy Evolution Armada Megatron figure. I highly recommend you get this figure if you can. As I said, he's still shelf warming in some stores here in the United States, so he is still out there for availability. So get him while supplies last. Thank you guys all so much, and until next time, you guys stay safe, stay healthy, transform and roll out. Goodbye, everyone.